All right, guys, welcome back. I did a video about this a few weeks ago, doing the 2007, or not 2007, it was 2011 rookie season for Cody Darrow when he was the World of Outlaws Rookie of the Year. It was him versus Bill Rose, and I did get a little bit of feedback from you guys on that video, and so I figured I would kind of change it up a little bit for this one and look at all of the drivers that were the Rookie of the Year contenders in 2007 this time, and look at their stats and talk about what they did that year. And also, this kind of is, spurred up by Johnny Gibson putting out a tweet earlier on today talking about how there could potentially be up to 5 guys that are signing on to be a Rookie of the Year in 2025 with the Outlaws. And we've kind of talked about that on the channel a little bit. If you're a regular viewer, we've talked about a couple of guys that I did a top 10 video about some guys that I think could be potential drivers going on the Outlaw Tour. And I think a couple of them are definitely, well on their way. If I had to say 5 guys right now, I think Cole Macedo is one of them. Danny Sams, Garrett Williamson, Logan McCandless could be one. And then I heard, this might be off the wall, but I heard maybe Brian Paulus might be coming out of retirement and being an outlaw. He wouldn't be a rookie, so I guess that wouldn't really count. But it sounds like Paulus is maybe on his way back to being a full-time driver somehow. So those first 4, though, I think that they could definitely be some of those guys that Johnny Gibson is talking about in his tweet. So, and if that was the case, it'd be the first time in a while that there have been 4 drivers going for the Rookie of the Year title in one season. 2007 was one of those years. It was Kerry Madsen versus Sam Hafertepe Jr. versus Chad Hillier versus Tony Bruce Jr. So a pretty, if you know sprint car racing, you should know most of these names, I would say. Chad Hillier, after 2008, he didn't really race a whole bunch more as far as on a big time level, right? But Tony Bruce Jr., Sam Hafertepe Jr., Kerry Madsen, guys that I feel like a lot of people would know about, whether you watch 360 or 410 sprint car racing, or if you watch the Chili Bowl. That's kind of where I knew Tony Bruce Jr. more was on the Chili Bowl side of things. But with Kerry Madsen, he would be the World of Outlaws Rookie of the Year in 2007 when it was all said and done. He was the driver he still is the driver out of St. Mary's, New South Wales, Australia. And, I learned a lot throughout doing the research for this video. And one of the things was that Kerry Madsen was 37 years old when he was the Rookie of the Year in 2007 with the Outlaws. So if you did some quick math, in 07, right now it's 17 years. So Kerry Madsen's like 55 years old right now, still going hard in a sprint car, which is crazy. He drove the Helm number 11H car. His crew chief that year was Sonny Kratzer. He would end up finishing 13th in the overall point standings. With 71 starts, he had 5 DNQs where he did not make the show. He would get 2 wins this year, 10 top 5s and 23 top 10s. He would actually win very early on in the season. He won the 2nd race of the year at Volusia Speedway Park. Average finish for him that year was a 13.34. He led 86 laps, 44 finishes on the lead lap. He was 1,634 points behind the 2007 Outlaw champion of Donnie Schatz, and he was an astounding 1,202 points ahead of his next closest rookie, which is Sam Hafertepe Jr. Now, over to Hafertepe from Sunnyvale, Texas, still races a lot to this day. I think he's a full-time guy with the ASCS National Tour right now. At this point in time, in 07, he was 22 years old. He drove his family-owned 15H car, and it was hard to find, but I did read some old articles, and it looked like that Sammy Swindell was like one of the main guys on the crew. As far as the crew chief goes, that year in 07, Swindell only ran 3 Outlaw shows total, and I read in an article on Sam Hafertepe Jr.'s website that Swindell was turning the wrenches for a majority of this season. He would end up 19th in points, 54 starts, 22 DNQs, only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. Now, going into 07, I think I read that Hafertepe had a total of like 2410 races under his belt in his entire career. So it was a huge step up for him to go on the Outlaw Tour. 5th was his best finish of the year, and it just so happened to be at the same exact race that Kerry Madsen won, the 2nd race of the year at Volusia Speedway Park. His average finish in 18.41. He led 13 laps on the year, 22 lead lap finishes, 2,836 points behind Donnie Schatz, and he was 99 points ahead of the next guy in the Rookie of the Year title fight was Chad Hillier. And I put this down at the bottom that Hafertepe would go on to win his one and only World of Outlaws race in 2011 at the Skagit Speedway in Washington. Now, let's get over to Chad Hillier. He was from Burlington, Washington. At the time when he was a Rookie of the Year, he was 28 years old. He drove the I think it was Dave DeWitt, number 5C car. I'm not really sure how to say that one quite right, but his crew chief that year was Tyler Swank. How many people has Tyler Swank been the crew chief for? I would love to ask him that question because it's got to be in the 15 to 20 range, I would have to guess. Tyler Swank this year has crew chief for like 3 different people. So Tyler Swank, the crew chief for Chad Hillier in his rookie year in 07, he would end up 20th in the overall point standings, 51 starts, and 25 times he did not make the feature event, and only 1 top 10 finish on the year. His best finish was an 8th place run at the Kokomo Speedway during race number 29 of the year. Average finish for him was an 18.65. No laps led, 15 lead lap finishes. He was 2,935 points behind Donnie Schatz and 122 points ahead of Tony Bruce Jr. And Chad Hillier would go on to run one more full-time season with the Outlaws in 2008, where he would, is it sextuple? 6 times what he did? Is that a word? I'm not really sure. I know quintuple is 5. Sextuple, I think, is 6. He had 6 top 10s as opposed to 1 in 2007. Someone make sure I'm saying that there. If I just made up a word, I'm not really sure. But so Chad Hillier, after 08, though, from what I could find, did not really race a whole lot. But his son is now big-time racing right now, Levi Hillier. I believe he runs the Rudine Racing 26 car at Skagit Speedway on a weekly basis. So I've heard a lot of good things about Chad's son, and we'll see what he can do over the next couple of years. He's still very, very young, but I've heard a lot of good things. Now, on to Tony Bruce Jr. TBJ ran a lot with the ASCS National Tour, but when he went full-time outlaw racing, he was 23 years old at the time. He was from Liberal, Kansas. He drove, I believe it was the family-owned number 18 T car, and I could not find any information on the crew chief. It might have been his dad, might have been, his brother. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was him. I'm not sure. Could not find that information. He would finish 21st in points, 44 A-main starts, and 32 races where he did not qualify for the main event. 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s, which is actually better than Chad Hillier and better than Sam Hafertepe Jr. His best run was a 3rd place result at the Charlotte Motor Speedway dirt track during race number 25. So he did have a podium finish, unlike Hillier and unlike Hafertepe. His average finish was actually better than both of theirs at 17.48. He had 0 laps led, 18 lead lap finishes, and he was 3,057 points behind Donnie Schatz in 2007. Tony Bruce Jr., I believe, was the final driver that was a full-time member of the series that year in points. Yes, there was 21 full-time drivers in 2007, and the reasoning behind that was it was the year after, was it NST folded, or was it the other series? Somebody was telling me about this the other day that it was the split. It was between the Outlaws and NST, or the Outlaws and the USA series, one of those two. And then the other series folded up. Everybody came back together in 07 with the Outlaws, and that's why there was 21 full-time competitors that year, including 4 rookies. And so that's why there were so many drivers that were full-time that year. Tony Bruce Jr. would go on to win a World of Outlaws race in his career. It was the very next year, in 2008, he ran full-time again and was able to get a victory at the 34 Raceway in West Burlington, Iowa. So 2 of the drivers on this list, well, we know Kerry Madsen had a very, very successful career and is still going right now, still successful, still doing great things. But Hafertepe and Tony Bruce Jr., they were able to win outlaw shows. Tony Bruce Jr., I think, is officially retired now. Chad Hillier is retired, and we know that Hafertepe and Madsen are still going strong. So, the tweet from Johnny Gibson and, me starting that series with, Cody Darrow, the Rookie of the Year season, kind of sparked this video. And there's really not much else going on right now. The Outlaws are racing tonight at Williams Grove. Indiana Sprint Week's going on right now. So we're trying to find some content to keep us busy over the next couple of weeks. When Knoxville gets going, that's really when things are going to start ramping up here on the channel. We will be taking the whiteboard to the Knoxville Nationals and giving you guys updates from there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, a little bit of history lesson. Maybe you learned something new about these drivers. Maybe you didn't know who one of them were, and now you do, and you didn't know they were an outlaw guy, but now you do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below. What did you think about this type of video? I want to hear your thoughts and maybe some suggestions on how we can make it better for next time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.